However, because it is known that the continual use of such energies will fatally deplete the individual by consuming their life force, sorcerers must also learn to harness external forces through meditation techniques and trained willpower. This is only a small overview of the plethora of books Peter has read. He hasn't used any magic up until this point, other than the sling ring for easy travel. Although he knows a lot about all of these subjects, the Ancient One has warned him against trying anything without her or a designated master's instruction. Luckily, that instruction would be starting soon. Peter was the first to arrive at the meeting place as he leaned against a nearby wall. He didn't have to wait long as MJ arrived not long after. She was nervous as this could be a date for all she knows. Her mother said it wasn't, but she also insisted on doing MJ's makeup and even picked out her outfit. All of this led to MJ believing that this was most likely a date, which made her nervous and very self-conscious. On the other side, Peter didn't come to the same conclusion. He just thought this was a shopping trip and was fairly calm. "Yo, MJ!" Peter calls out, grabbing her attention as she walks up to him. "Hey, did you wait long?" she asks. "No, only a few minutes." "Do you want to start looking for clothes or get some food first?" Peter asks. "We're getting food?" However, because it is known that the continual use of such energies will fatally deplete the individual by consuming their life force, sorcerers must also learn to harness external forces through meditation techniques and trained willpower. This is only a small overview of the plethora of books Peter has read. He hasn't used any magic up until this point, other than the sling ring for easy travel. Although he knows a lot about all of these subjects, the Ancient One has warned him against trying anything without her or a designated master's instruction. Luckily, that instruction would be starting soon. Peter was the first to arrive at the meeting place as he leaned against a nearby wall. He didn't have to wait long as MJ arrived not long after. She was nervous as this could be a date for all she knows. Her mother said it wasn't, but she also insisted on doing MJ's makeup and even picked out her outfit. All of this led to MJ believing that this was most likely a date, which made her nervous and very self-conscious. On the other side, Peter didn't come to the same conclusion. He just thought this was a shopping trip and was fairly calm. "Yo, MJ!" Peter calls out, grabbing her attention as she walks up to him. "Hey, did you wait long?" she asks. "No, only a few minutes." "Do you want to start looking for clothes or get some food first?" Peter asks. "We're getting food?" MJ asks as her mind begins to race. This is looking more and more like a date. "Yeah, I've been craving some Chick-fil-A lately. Are you hungry now or do you want to get our clothes first?" Peter asks. "Let's shop first. I want to get that out of the way before eating anything," MJ says as she looks around at the nearby stores. "Alright, let's get going then." Going from store to store, Peter was the first to buy his suit, which was an all-black slim-fit suit with black dress shoes. It was a little expensive, but it would be worth every penny. He knew it was good by the look MJ was giving him as he exited the fitting room. Insert picture of all-black slim-fit suit. "Does it look good?" Peter asks as he turns to give her a good view. She took a moment to look at him in a daze before answering, "Yeah, you look good. I mean the suit looks good." Giving her a smirk, Peter turned to the tailor that measured him and helped pick out the suit. "I'll take this one. Will it be ready by today?" Peter asks, knowing all tailors usually alter their suits to fit their clients perfectly. After measuring and inspecting the suit one last time, the tailor found nothing that needed to be altered, so Peter bought the whole outfit and left with his bags. "Alright, it's your turn now. Where to?" Peter asks and follows MJ to a string of stores. He could tell that she didn't like shopping, at least not in these types of stores, as MJ did not look happy the longer they kept going. He would be right, as MJ doesn't care for shopping and feels especially uncomfortable with wearing a dress, as she's always been a bit of a tomboy. This prolonged their search as no dress fit MJ's style. As time went on, Peter saw MJ become more and more frustrated, so he decided to step in. "Let's get some food," Peter says as he grabs MJ's hand and walks out of the store they were in. MJ instantly forgot about her earlier frustrations and focused on Peter's hand that was holding hers. She immediately felt self-conscious. Her hand was a little sweaty and she knew it, but Peter either didn't care or didn't notice. If MJ knew this would happen, she would have wiped her hand on her jeans beforehand or something. As they exited the store, Peter and MJ quietly walked hand in hand down the sidewalk toward the nearby Chick-fil-A. Ordering some food and taking a seat, they sat across from each other with their food between them. Eating slowly, Peter was the first to speak up. "You don't like dresses, do you?" he says matter-of-factly. Swallowing her food, MJ looks at him for a moment before answering. "What gave it away? Did you figure it out before or after we left the Six dress shop?" MJ retreats to her guarded sarcasm as she felt like she was ruining everything. She just spent hours looking for clothes in places she felt she didn't belong. MJ would just have to ask her mother to pick her out a dress, as she would never buy anything if it was up to her. Although her answer was a bit sarcastic and snippy, Peter knew that was her defense mechanism. After a little over a week of talking and hanging out, he started to understand MJ to a certain extent. That understanding only grows with every interaction they have. "You don't have to wear a dress, you know?" Peter says as he pops a waffle fry into his mouth. "Huh?" MJ grunts in confusion. "There's no dress code for homecoming. You can wear whatever you want," Peter says with a shrug as he sips his soda. MJ stares at Peter in realization for a moment before speaking. "You won't mind if I wear something else?" "Nope. I think you should wear whatever you want. If you want to dress like it's another day of school, then do it," Peter says with a shrug. "Besides, I like the slightly tomboyish MJ. She's cute." While MJ was computing what he just said, Peter's super hearing picked up something alarming. "Put the money in the bag. Make it quick." A man's voice came from the bank across the street. "No dye packs or trackers either." "Yes." A woman stutters nervously and shuffled some things around. "I said quickly, B times Th," the man exclaims as the sound of someone being hit by something metal fills his ears. "Ah!" A woman screams in pain as Peter hears her fall to the ground. "Get up and get my money, or there's a bullet in here with your name on it." Taking a quick bite of his chicken sandwich and washing it down with some soda, Peter excuses himself to the restroom, leaving behind a bewildered and blushing MJ. "I'll be right back," Peter says as he enters the empty bathroom and locks the door before switching to his spider suit in an instant. The bathroom had no windows, so Peter opened a portal to a nearby rooftop and rushed toward the bank. When Peter went to the bathroom, MJ tried to get herself under control, but something caught her interest from the corner of her eye. "What the?" MJ mutters as she sees a shadow make its way across the pavement outside. A moment later, MJ saw Spider-Man swing down from above the building and smash into the window of a bank across the street. Staring in awe for a moment, MJ takes out her phone and texts Peter about what's happening before rushing outside to get a better view of the action. She could barely believe this was happening. Chapter 12. Bank Busta. Staring down at the bank from the top of a building across the street, Peter assessed the situation through the large glass windows. Inside the bank was a group of 4 masked gunmen who were very obviously robbing the place. While scoping out the area, Peter noticed an empty but still running car parked outside, which is probably their getaway vehicle. He would wait for them to leave and take them down away from the hostages, but based on the earlier threats and assault he heard while eating, Peter didn't want to risk it. Swinging down and crashing into the bank's window, Peter already had a game plan formulated in his head. As the glass shattered, everyone inside, including the robbers, were too surprised to act. Some of the more traumatized in the bank screamed in fright. They had already been through a lot with the whole bank robbery and being held hostage at gunpoint thing. While everyone was frozen in surprise, Peter accurately shot his webs at every gun in the building. "All right, boys and girls," Peter says as he stands casually in the center of the bank, surrounded by gunmen and hostages. "You have the right to remain ugly." "Oh wait, that's not it, is it? Spider-Man?" One of the robbers yells in fright. "What's he doing here? I thought he's only out at night?" Another says in confusion as he aims his gun at Peter, but soon noticed the web covering it. "What the hell?" As soon as he noticed the web, the others saw it as well. A couple of the robbers tried to pull it off, while the others kept their guns aimed at the very familiar intruder. They'd been planning this heist for a while now. It was actually supposed to happen later in the night before the bank closes. Sadly for them, Spider-Man patrols the streets at that time, so they changed the plan to happen during the day. Look, I understand you must be nervous meeting a celebrity like myself, but I'm just a normal guy like you, Peter says with mock arrogance. Shut up! One of the less scared robbers yells commandingly as he points his webbed gun toward a female bank teller with a swollen face and busted lip. We've put too much work into this job to get caught by some spider freak. His words hype up his fellow gunmen so they give up getting the web off, as it just wouldn't budge, and pointed their guns at Spider-Man. Now, we're getting our money and leaving. If you try to stop us, then I think you know what's going to happen, right? The charismatic gunman said as he pressed the barrel of his gun against the side of the teller's head. Is he the one that did that to your face? Peter asked the teller, as he completely ignores anything the gunman said. Having a hard time finding her voice, the woman nods shakily at first before speaking nervously. Yes. Shut up, B times teach, the gunman exclaims as he kicks the back of her legs, knocking her to her knees. Leave now, or I blow her brains out all over these nice people. Ignoring him completely, Peter walks forward leisurely. The gunman yells some threatening nonsense, but he just keeps walking. Soon enough, one of the gunmen that was aiming at Peter mustered up the courage to squeeze the trigger. Asterisk, click asterisk. Nothing happens as the only sound that fills the room is that of the metal trigger being pulled. Seeing this, the others try shooting Peter while the hostage taker pulls his trigger as well, scaring the poor teller half to death, but once again nothing happens. Did you think I just webbed your guns for no reason? Peter says as he walks up to the hostage taker. In a panic, the three other gunmen start tearing at the webbing on their guns as the hostage taker throws his gun aside and pulls out a knife. Don't come, he says as he goes to press the knife against the woman's throat, but Peter acted much faster. Shooting a web at the knife, Peter grabs the other end and yanks. With his super strength, the guy had no chance as the knife slips out of the hostage taker's hand. At this point, Peter was right in front of the guy. Look, I'm sorry, man, the masked man says as he pushes the battered hostage away and puts his hands up. Just let me go, okay? I won't do something like this again. I promise. Asterisk, crack asterisk. Without a word, Peter smacked the guy upside the head, sending him tumbling to the floor with a busted lip, bruised face, and broken jaw. That should make you even, right? Peter says as he looks over his shoulder toward the battered teller. She didn't say anything as she marched over to the downed robber and kicked him square in the nuts. Ah! A high-pitched scream fills the bank as the guy holds his nuts in pain. Now we're even, she says before walking out of the bank with her head held high. She's been through enough today and was ready to never see this bank again. Thank you. Man, that's one scary woman, Peter says as he turns to the other gunmen, who were watching what happened to their friend nervously. Why don't you guys just give up? I wouldn't want to call her back in here to finish the rest of you off, Peter says as he gestures to their private parts. Thinking of their unborn children, the other three gunmen throw away their useless guns and put their hands up. With the situation diffused, Peter webbed up the four criminals and left the bank while being thanked profusely by the former hostages. On his way out, Peter saw MJ watching from across the street and gave her a small wave before swinging off into the distance. Finding a secluded area, Peter opens a portal back to the bathroom and hears loud banging from the door. Hey, is anyone in there? Hurry it up, I got a sash times tea, a man yells from the other side. 1 sec, Peter calls out as he switches back to his normal clothes and checks himself in the mirror before unlocking the door and leaving. Sorry. Peter was met with a fat and angry-looking bald man who simply scoffed at him before pushing past and slamming the bathroom door shut behind him. Shortly after the door closed, Peter heard some sounds he wished he didn't hear. Returning to his seat, Peter heard police sirens getting close as MJ rushes back inside and sits across from him. You won't believe what just happened, she says as she points to the bank across the street. What? Did someone smash the windows or something? Peter plays dumb as he starts eating again. No, you didn't see my text, did you? She asks, and Peter shakes his head, taking out his phone. After reading it and putting on a shocked face, Peter looks at MJ skeptically. There's no way you saw Spider-Man, Peter says, as he looks outside at the police who just showed up. "I swear, he even waved at me," MJ says as if it was some sort of odd achievement. "Now I really don't believe you," Peter says with a small laugh. "He did, I don't know why though," she says with a confused look. "Well, he better go find his own girlfriend," Peter says jokingly, still pretending not to believe her. "Girlfriend." MJ repeated his words in her head as she blushed and averted her gaze, though she didn't refute his words. After everything that happened, MJ and Peter didn't feel like shopping anymore, so they went their separate ways. MJ said she would try looking for clothes again with her mother before they separated in the subway. Peter wanted to walk her home, but MJ refused, so he didn't push it. She got to their meeting place on her own and could get back on her own as well. When MJ arrived home, she immediately sent Peter videos of what happened to prove that she saw Spider-Man. Upon receiving the videos, Peter cut her a break and said he believed her, though he still pretended not to believe anything about Spider-Man waving at her. Sadly for her, she couldn't find a video of that moment. While watching the videos MJ sent him, Peter saw that one of them was a clip from J. Jonah Jameson's online show. Though he knows MJ hates him, as she's a fan of Spider-Man, so he wasn't worried. Seeing that Jonah was still talking about him, Peter did some research and found that he was becoming a very popular figure lately. Jonah's views were up, and there were sponsors on every broadcast he did and video he made. Even the comments of his videos were filled with a bunch of people that seemed to hate Spider-Man. What truly shocked Peter was the appearances Jonah made on different talk shows and news channels. This is getting out of hand. Peter thought, as he knew it was time to fight back, but he wasn't sure how. Suddenly, his phone goes off and Peter sees the many different notifications he has from YouTube, Instagram, and things like that. Instantly, Peter had an interesting idea. That could work. Chapter 13. Influencer divided by Great Weaver. Peter's idea is to pretty much make Spider-Man an influencer on YouTube and other social media platforms. It literally has what he's trying to do in the name, influence people. Well, influence those that are being poisoned by J. Jonah Jameson's constant anti-Spider-Man propaganda. Peter knows he won't be able to get all of Jonah's followers to turn sides, but most people are logical and level-headed. They would hopefully make up their own minds after seeing for themselves. He already knew what to do. Peter would record videos of his nightly duties as Spider-Man and post them to YouTube after some quick editing. It would be an easy way to show the full context of the situations which Jonah is constantly spinning into some conspiracy perpetrated by Spider-Man or some other craziness. As for the other social media platforms, Peter thought it would be best to use Twitter and Instagram. Instagram only just came out this year, so it was still new and not very popular. The only reason he has an Instagram account is that Peter knows it will be popular in the years to come, though that popularity may come sooner rather than later. After all, Spider-Man would be on it soon enough. On the other hand, Twitter has been around for almost 4 years and was starting to gain some traction. Peter chose these 3 things for specific reasons and not just out of random thought. YouTube would showcase the good he does in video format. Twitter can be used to speak his mind or send warnings during future emergencies. The only one that he doesn't necessarily need is Instagram. It's more of a want than a need. Peter liked the idea of posting cool pictures as Spider-Man, kind of like how Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man would take photos of himself and sell them to the Daily Bugle to make a living. The only obstacle to his new plan is the fact that these accounts could be linked back to him. This problem would need to be taken care of beforehand, as people like Stark, S.H.I.E.L.D., Hydra, and anyone with a bit of skill and brains would be able to find him easily. He would have to engineer a way to encrypt these accounts, which shouldn't be too hard. Peter just needs to pick up some books on cryptography, network security, and anything else related. After reading up on these subjects, Peter could start brainstorming and put something together. Though even with all of his accounts encrypted and secured from any nosy people and organizations, Peter still wouldn't be able to make any money from anything related to this. For example, the second he pulled out any amount of money from his YouTube account, that transaction would be easily traceable. Especially for government agencies, like S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra by extension. Hell, the IRS could probably track it. The money just wouldn't be worth it, especially since Peter is already working on a project that would make a lot more money. Pay-to-win games are a much more lucrative business after all. Knowing he had to get to work, Peter started scouring libraries, bookstores, and college campuses for the things he needed. His schedule just got a bit more crowded, but he could handle it. He's Spider-Man after all. 1 week later. After a week of studying cryptography, network security, and other similar subjects, Peter already had a few ideas on how to secure his online activities as Spider-Man. He just needed to narrow it down to one solid plan, and then Peter could get to work. Other than that, his schedule moved as usual. Everything was advancing steadily, including the development of Candy Crush. Peter started to become very skilled in every area of game development. His art and musical skills were astronomically better than they were before. Though not everything happened as usual. Flashback. At the beginning of the week, Peter went to Kamartaj after school let out and was surprised to find the Ancient One waiting for him. "Are you ready for your training to begin?" she says as soon as he steps out of the portal. "God, yes," Peter exclaims happily. He's been cooped up in the library for far too long. All of the knowledge he's packed into his brain needed to be used. He was dying to start doing any magic other than portal creation. "Good, let's start with a small introduction, shall we?" she says and places her thumb on Peter's forehead. Oh, no. Peter thought, but it was too late for him to act. Suddenly, Peter was sucked out of the earth at lightning speed. Staring down at the planet below, he saw some things that shouldn't be there. Orbiting around the planet were glowing butterflies, which shined in every color of the rainbow. "Okay, this isn't too bad," Peter says, but soon regrets his statement. Before he could get too comfortable, Peter was once again sucked to another place. He appeared in a wormhole-type portal that flashed in different indescribable hues. Without getting a moment's rest, the scenes changed as Peter was thrown through many odd, beautiful, and dangerous dimensions. Peter saw towering figures with immeasurable power and glimpses of the universe that no man was meant to look upon. One dimension that scared him the most was dead. Nothing existed and everything was gone, decayed to nothing but dust which floated in the air as little specks. This dimension was killed by the battle of two titanic figures who were still fighting to this day. As an attack from one of the Titans was about to strike Peter, he was about to be sucked up into another wormhole, but an old feminine-looking hand grabs him. "Huh?" Peter grunted as the hand pulls him through a spider web crack which floated above him. Peering in an odd dimension made up of spider webs, similar to how the mirror dimension looks, except it was separated by webs and not cracks. Peter breathed heavily as he collapsed onto the floor with an enlightened and slightly scared look on his face. In between the web-like structure of this dimension, horrible outcomes and frightening dimensional entities were playing over and over. As if he was watching multiple televisions, Peter fully realizes that he has been treating this new life as a fun new beginning, which it is, but that doesn't make the many dangers in this new world just disappear. Especially the universe-ending entities that he just saw. Although the giant titans seemed to be preoccupied with their battle, what would they do once that fight concluded? They wouldn't want to stay in a dead universe, would they? Peter was too afraid to continue that train of thought. This experience was a sort of wake-up call for him, as Peter saw the dangers that exist in the vast dimensions. "Do you understand now?" A voice of an old woman fills the spider-like dimension. Following the sound, Peter turns to see an old, decrepit-looking woman with spider-like appendages sitting on a stone throne. Not only does she have 8 black spider legs coming out of her back, but also multiple beady black eyes. I think so," Peter says in confusion. Peter thanks her awkwardly. "You're welcome, I suppose," she says with a dismissive wave of her hand. As they're speaking, a golden portal appears, and in walks the Ancient One in all her baldness. "Oh, I understand now," the Sorcerer Supreme mutters as she waltzed into the dimension casually. "Hello, Peter. You had me worried there for a moment." "So, this wasn't planned?" Peter asks. "No, only your consciousness was to be sent across the many dimensions. But your body disappeared not long after. Thankfully, you were taken here," the Ancient One says in relief as she turns toward the Spider Granny. "Greetings, Great Weaver. It's been a while since we've last met." "Yow." It's certainly been long, hasn't it? I see you're still connected to that vile place, the Great Weaver says, showing a brief moment of disgust. I would appreciate it if we didn't speak of that in front of my student, the Ancient One says, giving the Great Weaver a stern look. Peter thanks her awkwardly. You're welcome, I suppose, she says, with a dismissive wave of her hand. As they're speaking, a golden portal appears, and in walks the Ancient One in all her baldness. Oh, I understand now, the Sorcerer Supreme mutters as she waltzed into the dimension casually. Hello, Peter. You had me worried there for a moment. So, this wasn't planned? Peter asks. No, only your consciousness was to be sent across the many dimensions, but your body disappeared not long after. Thankfully, you were taken here, the Ancient One says in relief as she turns toward the Spider Granny. Greetings, Great Weaver. It's been a while since we've last met. Yow, it's certainly been long, hasn't it? I see you're still connected to that vile place, the Great Weaver says, showing a brief moment of disgust. I would appreciate it if we didn't speak of that in front of my student, the Ancient One says, giving the Great Weaver a stern look. Oh, relax. He'll find out sooner or later, the pattern maker said as much, though I'll respect your wishes and not speak on the subject any further, the Granny says with a shrug. I see. The Ancient One goes quiet for a moment. Who's the pattern maker? Peter asked in confusion. You don't need to worry about that, at least not for a while yet, the Great Weaver says and turns back to the Ancient One. I'm done with your student. You may take him back now. Let's go, Peter, the Ancient One says, as she walks back to her open portal without another word. Yeah. Peter follows behind her but turns to look over his shoulder for a moment. It was nice meeting you. The Great Weaver doesn't reply, but when the portal closes and she's left alone, a small smile creeps onto her face. I hope you survive and meet my expectations, Peter. Oh, relax. He'll find out sooner or later, the pattern maker said as much, though I'll respect your wishes and not speak on the subject any further, the Granny says with a shrug. I see. The Ancient One goes quiet for a moment. Who's the pattern maker? Peter asked in confusion. You don't need to worry about that, at least not for a while yet, the Great Weaver says and turns back to the Ancient One. I'm done with your student. You may take him back now. Let's go, Peter, the Ancient One says as she walks back to her open portal without another word. Yeah. Peter follows behind her but turns to look over his shoulder for a moment. It was nice meeting you. The Great Weaver doesn't reply, but when the portal closes and she's left alone, a small smile creeps onto her face. I hope you survive and meet my expectations, Peter. The Great Weaver is a neutral entity in the vast dimensions, though that doesn't mean she will have your best interests in mind. Neutral doesn't mean good. Be wary of her intentions, the Ancient One explains as she tops off her tea once again. That's it? Peter asks as he barely learned anything. If you want to learn more, find out on your own time, she says as she waves her hand, drawing a spell circle made of eldritch energy in the center of the air. Now is the time for training. Tell me about this. Knowing that he won't get anything out of her, Peter just goes with the flow and decided to look into this when he has the opportunity. It's a spell circle. They're the building blocks of the mystic arts and are used to perform most magic. The few arts that don't need spell circles are personal energies, forming energy weaponry, and astral projection. If there are any other subjects that don't fall under the spell circle umbrella, then I haven't learned them yet, Peter explains. Anything else? She asks expectantly. Spell circles are made up of spell lines, runes, glyphs, and other symbols. Almost anything can be done with the right combination of these things. Certain powerful spells will require the spell circle, or circles depending on the difficulty, to be accompanied by certain chants or incantations. Peter explains further. Although Peter didn't read about it in any books, he had a theory about advanced spells. Based on seeing the Ancient One always using magic without any visible spell circles, Peter has guessed that she doesn't need them for menial tasks anymore. His theory is that she has mastered the spell and therefore needs no spell circle. Either that, or she's using some sort of invisible or microscopic spell circle. Peter didn't mention this, as he wasn't sure if he was correct or not. He'll ask her when his skills in spellcrafting are up to par. Good enough. The Ancient One nods as her spell circle turns slightly and a jet of water shoots out, pushing Peter across the room before disappearing. Go to one of the courtyards and practice that spell. Spitting some water out of his mouth, Peter glares in the Ancient One's direction, only to find her leaving the area. I expect you to have this spell learned within the hour, she says as she rounds the corner, leaving the room. Don't destroy the fabric of the universe while I'm gone. Flashback end. Ever since that day, Peter has been learning spells every day. All of the spells he's learning consist of 3 different types of magic: conjuration, transmutation, and enchantment. Conjuration is magic that conjures anything from thin air. A subdivision of this art is transmutation, which is simply a conversion of one object or individual into another. Making creatures with either art would create a real, living, and breathing thing. Truth be told, the spell circle is a bit simpler when transmuting compared to conjuring. Having physical matter to use instead of nothing, but the air just makes it easier. Peter has learned to conjure divided by transfigure some small animals and objects. The objects came out warped and messed up at first, but he got the hang of it. The real horror came when he was making living things. Let's just say that terrifying Lovecraft-style creatures were created, and sometimes still made during Peter's practice to this day. Of course, they are dealt with swiftly so as not to prolong any pain or risk them getting loose among the public. Enchanting is magic that adds certain properties to an object or individual. Peter learned many enchantments. For example, he could make objects or people as light as a feather or as heavy as a mountain. He thought of Thor's hammer while learning these enchantments. There was one enchantment that he loved learning, which was the flying enchantment. Peter could make objects and individuals, like himself, fly. Though he can't move very fast while doing so, and it's not the easiest to control. The fastest he could fly while using this spell on himself is around 10 miles per hour, which was pitiful compared to his normal top speed of 108 miles an hour, though that speed can be increased with practice. That's right, thanks to his training in the spider lair, Peter has upped his running speed from 100 miles per hour to 108 miles per hour. This isn't the only thing he enhanced, as his strength grew to almost 11 tons as well. It was a slow build, but compared to normal people, Peter was growing at an astronomical pace. Finally being able to practice spells, Peter felt amazing. Thankfully, his time spent studying in the library for a month came in handy, as he didn't have to sit in lectures and learned around 1 to 3 spells a day, depending on how hard they were. As the school week came to an end, Midtown High hosted a pep rally followed by a football game, which welcomed everyone in the community to attend, eat some food, and enjoy themselves. Peter, Ned, and MJ went together, but their families had work and couldn't make it to these events. This was fine, as they didn't really care about the football game and just hung out and ate some food together. Speaking of Ned and MJ, their meeting was a fairly awkward one. Flashback. A divided by N. A lot of flashbacks lately, huh? After Peter and MJ were suspended from school, Ned rushed over to Peter's apartment as soon as school was out. Knocking on the door, May let him in, and Ned rushes past her without thinking, heading straight to Peter's room. Pushing open the door, Ned speaks before he could take in his surroundings. "Dude, what's going on? I thought you had a crush on Liz?" Ned says as the room goes silent. Sitting in the room alongside Peter was MJ, who heard exactly what Ned said as clear as day. She and Peter were sitting in front of his computer, watching random YouTube videos together. He invited her over after their suspension, and neither of their guardians had a problem with it. They were suspended from school, but they didn't exactly do anything wrong. Hey Ned," Peter says awkwardly as he pauses the video. Ned stands out of place in the doorway. He didn't know what to say, and neither did MJ, who stared between Peter and Ned questioningly. "MJ, this is Ned. He's my best friend. Ned, this is MJ, my new friend." Peter carries on the awkwardness as he introduces them. Hey, MJ," Ned says as he starts speaking without thinking. "I didn't know. You're obviously better than Liz." As Ned starts putting his foot in his mouth, MJ just stares at him blankly, her eyebrow inching higher as he speaks. "Dude, just stop talking, please," Peter tells him in exasperation. After a moment of silence, MJ tries and fails to hold back her laughter. "You guys are losers. You know that, right?" MJ says as her giggles subside. "It takes a loser to know a loser," Peter says with a smile as the awkward atmosphere slowly faded away. "I guess you're right." MJ laughs again and wipes her tears. She wasn't worried about Liz Allen. If Peter wanted to ask her out, he would have, but that didn't happen. Also, Peter wouldn't have stood up for her so extremely if he wasn't interested. Maybe he would have helped, but he wouldn't have gotten physical with Flash. Peter's known as a straight-laced nerd who never gets in trouble. Punching someone in the face in front of the entire school was definitely out of character for Peter. Did I fix it?" Ned asks cluelessly. Hearing him ask this, Peter and MJ just look at each other and shake their heads in exasperation. "Yeah, man. Don't worry about it. Do you want to watch YouTube videos with us?" Peter says as he motions towards the computer. "Yeah, sure." Ned agrees easily. Flashback end. After that plane crash of a first meeting, Ned and MJ got along just fine. The awkward first impression may have actually made it easier for them to become better friends. There was no awkwardness or third-wheel type feelings when they all hung out together. Ever since that day, the three of them became a sort of friend group, and that was a first for all three of them. MJ has always been a loner while Peter and Ned have only ever had each other, and two isn't a group. Chapter 15. Homecoming. When the pep rally and the football game came to an end, the weekend arrived and the day of the homecoming dance was finally here. Peter still hasn't seen MJ's outfit for the night. Whether she's going to wear a dress or a hoodie and jeans, he has no idea. Since it was the weekend, May and MJ's mother, Grace, had the day off work, so they wanted to meet and take pictures for the occasion before MJ and Peter set off. A divided by N, I just made up a name for MJ's mom. I don't think it was ever mentioned in MCU. Arriving at a nearby park, as it would look good for the pictures, Peter and May waited for MJ and her mother to show up. Peter was dressed to impress in his all-black slim-fit suit. "You've really grown up, haven't you?" May says as she fussed over his suit. "May, stop. It's fine," Peter says as he bats her hands away. "I'm just so shocked to see you in a suit. It highlights all the workouts you've been doing too," she says as she gives his biceps a quick squeeze. "Stop feeling me up, you cougar. I'm taken," Peter exclaims loud enough for some nearby people to overhear. "Don't make jokes like that," May says as she smacks his chest and turns to the onlookers. "He's just joking. It's his first high school dance tonight." When the misunderstanding was explained, the onlookers left them alone and Peter started laughing at the whole situation. He has been dealing with May's constant fussing for the whole day, so getting a little revenge made it all feel worth it. "I see you two are having fun," a voice says as Peter and May turn to see MJ and her mother, Grace. "If you can call it that," May says under her breath as she glares at Peter, who has stopped laughing completely. Upon seeing MJ's appearance, Peter couldn't help but freeze for a moment as he looked her up and down. She wore a black long-sleeve sweater dress with knee-high boots. MJ's hair was wavy and silky as it hung loosely down to her shoulders. Everything was perfect, including her makeup, which leaned more toward a natural look. MJ is a bit of a tomboy, so things like red lipstick and the like aren't her forte. "My eyes are here, Peter," MJ says as she gestures up to her face. Yeah, sorry," Peter said as he stops gawking at her. "You just look too cute." "Don't say that, idiot," MJ replies embarrassingly as her mother and May smile on the sidelines. "Please don't mind her," Grace says as she pulls out a camera. "Let's get some pictures before the sun sets." While being manhandled by the older women in the group, Peter and MJ were made to make different poses as they took an uncountable amount of pictures. "That's it, we're not taking any more photos." MJ puts her foot down after the 1,000th picture. "Yeah, we should get going." Peter follows her lead. Seeing that the sun was beginning to set, May and Grace reluctantly put their cameras away. After some goodbye hugs, Peter and MJ took the nearest subway to Midtown High School. They could have gotten a ride from Grace, who offered to drive them, but they've both had enough of their parental figures for the day. "First, tell me why you need them." "My girlfriend's dad is some sort of high-level spy. I mean, you should see him. He looks like a Bad Times S secret agent from some video game. I met him last night. When he left, I noticed a car watching MJ's house and another followed me home. It's still there as we speak. I think MJ and her mother will be targeted because of his work, which is why her father has these people stationed to guard them. Peter explains without giving away his future knowledge. I see. You certainly have an interesting life, Peter. The Ancient One says with a smile. Yeah, it's never been boring, that's for sure. Peter gives a small laugh. I just need something that protects them while letting me know their location. Preferably in a way that they don't know about. I haven't told them about my powers and stuff yet. So she doesn't know you're Spider-Man? She asks as Peter shakes his head. Don't hide it for too long, especially as your relationship deepens. Every secret has an expiration date after all. God, yes. MJ agrees instantly as they find a secluded corner away from everyone. Is Ned still coming? MJ asked as they watch the gym slowly fill up. Yeah, he just got on the subway though. Peter says as he checks his phone for any texts from Ned. He said to give him 10 minutes. While they waited for Ned, Peter and MJ just sat in a corner, eating the occasional snacks as they people watched. MJ introduced Peter to this pastime. You just sit in a public area, watch people, and sometimes talk about them. Occasionally, MJ would draw someone that she found interesting, but she didn't bring her supplies with her today. Who do you think will be the first to dance? Peter asks. Just like any other high school dance, the dance floor itself is deserted. Most people feel awkward about dancing, so magnify that feeling by 10x for teenagers with raging hormones. No one wanted to be the first to dance and possibly make a fool of themselves, so music played as everyone stood around the dance floor, talking to their friend groups. Maybe Ned? Though he would have to get here first, MJ says jokingly as she scans the crowd. I think it'll be Flash, Peter says with a small laugh. As Peter says this, both of their eyes find said person in the crowd. Flash dressed in a normal tuxedo, but that wasn't the first thing anyone noticed when looking at him. His face is bruised and still healing. A nasal cast sits on his nose from Peter's punch. Walking with a slight hobble, Flash nurses his broken ribs almost constantly. We really did a number on him, MJ comments. Yeah, but he hasn't bullied anyone since, so maybe this is a good thing for him, Peter says as he shrugs uncaringly. Yeah, maybe. Soon enough, Ned joins them in their loser's corner. He's dressed in an old 70s style power blue tuxedo with those ruffles on the dress shirt. It was truly something Ned would wear, and he looked good in it. As the night went on, the three kept to themselves but still enjoyed the night. About an hour after Ned showed up, the dance floor started to fill. MJ was right in her guess as Ned was the first to go up and dance, though he only did it because she dared him to. Do you want to dance, MJ? Peter asked as some slower music was playing. Hell no. She rejects instantly. Peter merely shrugged as he wasn't much of a dancer either, though he's sure they would dance at some point in the future, maybe at the next school dance? As homecoming came to an end at 10 p.m. sharp, the chaperones ushered everyone out, where everyone made their way home. Peter, Ned, and MJ took the subway together as usual. Ned was the first stop, which left Peter and MJ alone together. Peter would be the next stop, but he stayed with MJ. You missed your stop, MJ says as the doors close. Yup, I'm walking you home, Peter says with a smile. We've been over this. MJ rolls her eyes. I can get home by myself. I know, but I want to spend more time with you, Peter says as he holds her hand. Although I love Ned, we didn't get much time to ourselves tonight, and it's late. MJ doesn't know what to say, so she just sighs and looks away, hiding her face for a moment. She's used to Peter holding her hand at this point, as he does it at least once whenever they're together. It's starting to become a thing she looks forward to in a weird way. It's not that late. She ignores everything he said except this. As they get to her stop, Peter and MJ walk to her house hand in hand. As they arrive, Peter sees MJ's house for the first time. It's a small house in an okay neighborhood. Certainly not something to brag about, but at least they have a house unlike Peter and May, who is bled dry every month by rent payments. So, as they stood at the end of the driveway, Peter turns to MJ and his brain froze. So, MJ mimics him as she's in the same situation he island. Can I kiss you? Peter asks nervously. Just do it. I swear you're such an idiot. MJ mutters, but Peter doesn't let her finish. Without another word, Peter leans forward and grasps her waist, pulling MJ close as he plants a soft kiss on her lips. It wasn't anything crazy and ended swiftly as they separated. MJ stared at him like a deer in headlights while Peter simply smiled. As the young couple was having their moment, a muffled bang came from MJ's house, surprising the two. I said leave. MJ's mom roars loud enough for Peter and MJ to hear from the end of the driveway. What the? Peter mutters as he dashed toward the door, followed by a worried daughter. Chapter 16, Daddy. In a dark office, which seems to be underground as it has no windows, Nick Fury hunches over a desk filled with paperwork. He's been reviewing field reports for missions performed by the many agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. all around the world. Some were still active while others had concluded with either success or failure. He's been looking over reports for the past 7 hours and looked to be fed up by now. Who knew being the head of the world's largest and most powerful extra-government spy agency would be so hard? Suddenly, the door opens, and in walks a nameless S.H.I.E.L.D. grunt, who handed the director a manila folder before saluting and taking his leave. Opening it up, Fury sees multiple surveillance photos and a log that described the daily life of the people in the photos. As he looked at each photo one by one, the usual hard and stern Nick Fury disappears as a sad and fond look forms on his face. Anyone who knew him would immediately think something was wrong upon seeing Fury's current state. As he looks through the photos, Fury notices something alarming, or rather someone. Checking the log, his eyes widen as the stern Nick Fury returns in full force. This mother of time's cur. Fury curses as he stands and leaves the room, slamming the door behind him. Left on his desk is a picture of MJ and Peter holding hands together while shopping. Next to the photo is the log, which was filled with words, but one thing stood out. Possible boyfriend? Bang. I said leave. MJ's mom. Grace roars loud enough for Peter and MJ to hear from the end of the driveway. What the? Peter mutters as he dashed toward the door, followed by a worried daughter. Jiggling the doorknob, Peter found that it was unlocked. Letting himself in, he saw Grace throwing pots and pans at a man in all black with a trench coat and eye patch. As soon as he saw who it was, Peter froze in shock. Nick Fury? I won't let you just come back into our lives and ruin MJ's special day. Grace exclaims like a pissed-off dragon and chucks a frying pan in Fury's direction. What special day? Fury asks as he easily sidesteps the pan, which hits the wall and breaks the drywall as it falls to the floor. He didn't have time to read the full report before rushing here, so he didn't know about the homecoming dance. See, Nick, you don't even know because you left. Grace yells as she ran out of things to throw and got up in his face. Your beautiful, loving, and brilliant daughter is on a date at her first high school dance tonight. Huh? Fury grunts in surprise. Now leave right this instant before she gets home and her night is ruined by the sight of you. Grace says pointedly as Peter turns to see MJ standing behind him looking sad and angry with a hollow look in her eyes. It's too late for that, MJ says, making her and Peter's presence known. Both parents turn to see Peter and MJ standing inside with the front door wide open behind them. Hey, Michelle, Fury says, happy to see his daughter in person for the first time in a while. It's MJ, she replies with a dead look toward her deadbeat daddy. Before anyone could say or do anything else, MJ turned around and paced out of the house. Baby, wait, Grace yells as she runs after MJ and they disappear down the street. An awkward silence fills the house as Peter and Fury are the only two left behind. What makes it even worse is the glare that Peter is currently receiving. Meeting your girlfriend's father is already a nerve-wracking experience, but it's 100 times worse when that father is Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D., and one of the greatest spies to ever live. Hello, sir? Peter greets uncomfortably. Fury just keeps his glare trained on Peter without uttering a single word. Were you just in the area, or... Peter tried to do anything to calm the awkward and hostile atmosphere. Go home, Nick says without giving Peter any room to object. Sure, that's probably a good idea. Peter nods as he heads toward the door to escape this awkward situation. As Peter leaves the house, Fury pulls out his phone and dials a number. Where are they? He asks. They're walking around the block, sir. Would you like me to escort them back? A voice on the other end of the phone replies. No, follow them and only reveal yourself if they're in danger. Fury orders and hangs up the phone. Walking around the house, Fury takes in the surroundings. Seeing all of the pictures around the house, he felt regret for leaving but knew it had to be done. Stealing his resolve, Nick sadly locked up the house and left shortly after Peter. While Peter was walking to the subway, he stopped in his tracks and turned back around. He didn't want to get in the middle of the Jones divided by Watson family drama, as he only just started dating MJ, which is why he agreed to leave so easily, but he felt that a great night was ruined and wanted to fix it somehow. Returning to MJ's house, Peter found the place locked up with no one home. Taking a seat on the few steps leading up to the front door, Peter waits patiently as he takes in the fresh night air. After waiting for almost half an hour, Peter saw MJ and her mother walk back towards the house, arm in arm. Both of them looked like they had been crying. Hey, Peter says with a wave. Hey, I thought you would be home by now, MJ says in surprise as she wipes any stray tears away. I was heading that way, but then I remembered I didn't say goodnight. Peter gives her a comforting smile. Well, don't mind me, Grace says as she makes her way toward the door. Huh? It's locked? He must have locked it before leaving, Peter says as MJ's mother nods and unlocks the door with her key. Don't be too long. It's getting late, Grace says as she leaves Peter and her daughter outside. Taking a seat beside Peter on the stairs, MJ sighs and looks out into the street quietly. Huh? Fury grunts in surprise. Now leave right this instant before she gets home and her night is ruined by the sight of you, Grace says pointedly as Peter turns to see MJ standing behind him looking sad and angry with a hollow look in her eyes. It's too late for that, MJ says, making her and Peter's presence known. Both parents turn to see Peter and MJ standing inside with the front door wide open behind them. Hey, Michelle, Fury says, happy to see his daughter in person for the first time in a while. It's MJ, she replies with a dead look toward her deadbeat daddy. Before anyone could say or do anything else, MJ turned around and paced out of the house. Baby, wait, Grace yells as she runs after MJ and they disappear down the street. An awkward silence fills the house as Peter and Fury are the only two left behind. What makes it even worse is the glare that Peter is currently receiving. Meeting your girlfriend's father is already a nerve-wracking experience. Would you count this date as a success? Peter asks as MJ rolls her eyes at him. The beginning was horrible, but that was because my mom and your aunt went a bit overboard. The middle was great while the end was what I would describe as a car crash, MJ says as she hugs her knees. I see, Peter says as he puts his arm around her shoulder. Then we'll just have to keep dating until we get it right. You're such a loser. MJ looks away as Peter pulls her close to him. It's okay, Peter says as he reaches his other arm around her, hugging MJ as she cradles herself into a ball. I just wish he would have showed up tomorrow or something, MJ says, getting teary-eyed and sniffly. When I saw him standing there, I was so angry but also happy. Isn't that sad? I was happy to see the man that ditched me and my mom without a single word. We just woke up one morning and he was gone. He didn't even say goodbye. I'm sorry. Wentz, but it's 100 times worse when that father is Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and one of the greatest spies to ever live. Hello, sir. Peter greets uncomfortably. Peter says, as he squeezes her gently in his arms. You didn't do anything, MJ says as she sniffles and rests her head on Peter's chest. Yeah, I'm just sorry you had to go through that, Peter clarifies. It wasn't all bad. My mom and I are really close now, which is why I didn't mind not having friends in school. My best friend was at home, MJ says, and Peter looks over his shoulder towards a nearby window. He could hear Grace wipe some tears as she snooped on her daughter from a nearby window. Though he wouldn't rat her out, May would probably do the same. Do you want your dad to show up again? Peter asks as he glances at a black unmarked car that was parked down the street. With his enhanced senses, Peter knew that the car was filled with people who were likely S.H.I.E.L.D. agents sent by her father. He could hear listening devices playing what they said through headphones in the car, so they were recording and would probably report this back to Fury. "I don't know," MJ muttered as she sniffles into his chest. "I just want to know why, you know?" "Yeah, I get it," Peter nods. "Maybe you should ask him next time he shows up." "Sure, if I didn't already scare him away," MJ says in self-deprecation. "He's your father. I doubt you could ever scare him away," Peter says as he glances at the car once again. "It's already happened once," she says in a small voice. "I highly doubt the reason your father left all those years ago was because of you or your mother," Peter says, very sure of himself. "You don't know that for sure," MJ says as she burrows further into Peter's arms. "And neither do you." Peter used her own words to prove his point. "It's a lot more likely that your father is some sort of secret agent or something. Maybe even a hitman. I mean, did you see his trench coat and that eye patch?" Peeved. "Yeah, right." MJ laughs as Peter hears the car of agents trying and failing to hold back their laughter as well. Chapter 17, Precautions. After comforting MJ for a while, Peter left and was surprised to find another group of agents following him, which were most likely sent by Fury. He didn't think that the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. would waste resources on him, but it seemed like MJ's daddy is more protective than he thought. I still can't believe Nick Fury is MJ's dad. I don't remember seeing her father in the movies, but it couldn't have been Fury, could it? Peter thought questioningly. The whole way home, Peter sensed the agents follow him, never getting close but always on his tail. When he rode the subway, Peter knew that they followed him into the train and were only a couple of passenger cars down. Upon arriving home, an unmarked black sedan showed up. The people that were following Peter got in the car and sat outside all night, watching the place in a similar manner to how the agents at MJ's house were. Listening carefully, Peter heard that they couldn't listen in on the apartment. Thankfully, there are too many people living in the building for their equipment to hone in on just one single area. They were forced to simply stake out the place and watch it with binoculars. Hearing this, Peter closed his room's curtains and blinds without rousing any suspicion. He made it look like he was simply making the rounds before bed. Not putting it past Fury to bug his house in the short time since he's met him, Peter used his enhanced senses to search the apartment from top to bottom. It seems like he overestimated Fury as nothing was found. Though that doesn't mean Peter would let his guard down. He'll have to make periodic searches of the house from now on, or come up with some sort of tech to block surveillance devices. With that done, Peter was going to leave for his spiderly duties, but then he looked at his phone warily and sighed. He usually takes his phone with him every night to hear the police dispatch, but now that he's on S.H.I.E.L.D.'s radar, it's likely that Fury is or will be tracking it. Peter could get away with using his phone before because of how crowded NYC Island. Anyone trying to find Spider-Man by tracking nearby smartphones would pick up tens of thousands of phone signals in any given area, making it an impossible task. Almost 9 million people lived in the city, and that wasn't even counting the huge population of tourists that come and go every day. Knowing that he can't take his phone with him anymore, Peter decided to take the night off and work on a solution. Sorry, New York. You'll have to survive one night without Spider-Man, Peter thought. He could use his newfound knowledge of cryptography, network security, coding, etc. to block anyone from locating and snooping into his phone. But that may alert Fury and make S.H.I.E.L.D. suspicious, so Peter came up with a better idea. Peter hacked into his phone and added a new setting under the unassuming name VPN. When the setting is toggled on, his phone would freeze any location tracking to his last known location, so if he turns it on now and leaves, the phone would register him still inside his bedroom. Peter also made it impossible for anyone to use his phone as a surveillance device, while also hiding the use of the ham radio app. He didn't bother hiding that he has the app, as it's something a nerd like him would be interested in, and everyone has a few apps that they downloaded and never use. Other than that, Peter didn't have anything to hide in his phone. He mainly uses it for personal things, so nothing incriminating is on it. The only problem he will have is the breach of privacy due to Fury being an overprotective father, but he can deal with that. If he were to completely lock S.H.I.E.L.D. out of his phone, they would likely think Peter's some sort of spy that's trying to use Fury's daughter against him or something. The only thing that could raise some suspicion is the fact that they won't be able to spy on Peter through the cameras or microphone in the phone, but that will hopefully be chalked up to a glitch or hardware issue. Peter just has to live while knowing that his girlfriend's father is most likely reading their private messages, which is unsettling, to say the least. He'll just have to stray away from the casual D times CK pic and make sure MJ doesn't send any nudes either, though neither of them is the type to do that anyway. Just in case, Peter swiped May's phone and made it impossible for S.H.I.E.L.D. to use her phone as a surveillance device as well. It may increase their suspicion, but both he and May have the same model phone, which they bought at the same time. Hopefully they'll just think that both phones have some sort of issue. Thankfully, nothing else in the house could be used as a surveillance device. Peter's computer has no microphone or webcam, and May only uses her phone and the TV. By the time Peter had finished putting in the safeguards against S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra by extension, it was already morning. Deciding to not mess up his sleep schedule, Peter went to the kitchen and started brewing some coffee. While drinking coffee and watching TV, Peter sent MJ a good morning text. Suddenly, Peter felt as though he was forgetting something. Thinking for a moment, it dawns on him, and Peter smacks his hand onto his forehead. How did I not think of this? S.H.I.E.L.D. has been infiltrated by Hydra, and MJ is the daughter of Nick Fury, who is one of Hydra's biggest obstacles to complete control over S.H.I.E.L.D. Peter knows Fury is a very careful and methodical man, but he doesn't know about Hydra's infiltration yet. Even if he is only using his most trusted agents to watch his family and keeps it completely off the books, that doesn't mean at least one of those agents isn't a long-time plant from Hydra. They could already know and have plans to use MJ and her mother against the one-eyed director. If Peter was a betting man, he would place his money on Hydra doing so during their uprising in the Captain America Winter Soldier movie. Might as well get some leverage just in case their plan to kill Fury fails, which it did in the movie. One problem gets solved, and another rears its ugly head. Peter nods. Maybe you should ask him next time he shows up. Sure, if I didn't already scare him away, MJ says in self-deprecation. He's your father. I doubt you could ever scare him away, Peter says as he glances at the car once again. It's already happened once, she says in a small voice. I highly doubt the reason your father left all those years ago was because of you or your mother, Peter says, very sure of himself. You don't know that for sure, MJ says as she burrows further into Peter's arms. And neither do you. Peter used her own words to prove his point. It's a lot more likely that your father is some sort of secret agent or something. Maybe even a hitman. I mean, did you see his trench coat and that eye patch? Peefed. Yeah, right. MJ laughs as Peter hears the car of agents trying and failing to hold back their laughter as well. First, tell me why you need them. My girlfriend's dad is some sort of high-level spy. I mean, you should see him. He looks like a Bad Times SS secret agent from some video game. I met him last night. When he left, I noticed a car watching MJ's house, and another followed me home. It's still there as we speak. I think MJ and her mother will be targeted because of his work, which is why her father has these people stationed to guard them. Peter explains, without giving away his future knowledge. I see you certainly have an interesting life, Peter. The Ancient One says with a smile. Yeah, it's never been boring, that's for sure. Peter gives a small laugh. I just need something that protects them while letting me know their location. Preferably in a way that they don't know about. I haven't told them about my powers and stuff yet. So, she doesn't know you're Spider-Man? She asks as Peter shakes his head. Don't hide it for too long, especially as your relationship deepens. Every secret has an expiration date after all. They saw an odd golden light and sent someone to investigate. Not finding anything wrong with either occupant of the house, the agent returns to the unmarked car and reports back. Once Peter returned home, he repeated the same spell on his Aunt May, who slept soundly throughout the whole process. Returning to his bedroom, Peter let out a tired sigh as he dives into his bed. That should keep them safe against any mundane dangers, Peter thought. The spell did a few things. First, it protects against anybody perceived as a threat or enemy. The spell decides that, on its own, so MJ, May, and Grace can't be tricked, attacked in their sleep, or any other possibilities. The protection simply creates a force field over the enchanted person's body. The force field appears only centimeters over the body and is completely invisible to the naked eye. Once the force field is activated, Peter will mentally receive the coordinates, which will constantly be updated if the target is on the move. The enchantment can take a lot of damage before the spell is broken, so only a powerful explosion or impact could possibly break it. Though to a master of the mystic arts, the spell can be broken in a matter of minutes. Thankfully, the spell itself isn't there to guard against sorcerers, just normal people with mundane weaponry. It's exactly what Peter needed, which he was very thankful for. During the next school day, Peter saw Ned, which reminded him to place the protection spell on him as well. He may not technically be in any danger, but the guy is Peter's best friend. If something happens to him, he doesn't know what he would do. They saw an odd golden light and sent someone to investigate. Not finding anything wrong with either occupant of the house, the agent returns to the unmarked car and reports back. Once Peter returned home, he repeated the same spell on his Aunt May, who slept soundly throughout the whole process. Returning to his bedroom, Peter let out a tired sigh as he dives into his bed. That should keep them safe against any mundane dangers, Peter thought. The spell did a few things. First, it protects against anybody perceived as a threat or enemy. The spell decides that on its own, so MJ, May, and Grace can't be tricked, attacked in their sleep, or any other possibilities. The protection simply creates a force field over the enchanted person's body. The force field appears only centimeters over the body and is completely invisible to the naked eye. Once the force field is activated, Peter will mentally receive the coordinates, which will constantly be updated if the target is on the move. The enchantment can take a lot of damage before the spell is broken, so only a powerful explosion or impact could possibly break it. Though to a master of the mystic arts, the spell can be broken in a matter of minutes. Thankfully, the spell itself isn't there to guard against sorcerers, just normal people with mundane weaponry. It's exactly what Peter needed, which he was very thankful for. During the next school day, Peter saw Ned, which reminded him to place the protection spell on him as well. He may not technically be in any danger, but the guy is Peter's best friend. If something happens to him, he doesn't know what he would do. That night, Peter snuck into Ned's house and gave him the protection enchantment as well. Just to be safe, Peter also gave the enchantment to Ned's family. You never know what could happen, so he just did it in case of a future incident. Once everyone was protected, Peter could go back to his normal schedule without issue. Recently, he's figured out a plan to secure his online activity as Spider-Man. Peter bought a few laptops with his leftover money and carefully took them all apart. He would be using these pieces to create what he calls a ghost laptop. In theory, the laptop would be able to safely use the internet in every way possible without the risk of being traced back to anywhere or anyone. No IP address, HTTP referrers, cookies, tracking pixels, super cookies, user agents, browser, fingerprinting, routing information, email metadata, etc. No trace or record whatsoever. It would be as if Peter's online activity is that of a ghost, without any evidence or trail left behind for nosy people or organizations to follow back to him. What Peter finds especially useful is that the laptop would connect itself to every cell tower and Wi-Fi signal within range, bypassing whatever password protection or company protection, and merging all of them into a singular online connection, keeping Peter online no matter where he island. It won't alert anyone or leave any traceable information behind either. The true ghost laptop. He's currently still building it, but once it's completed and tested, Spider-Man could start his journey as an influencer divided by YouTuber. Peter just hopes it works, as this is all just theoretical at this point. He also plans to make his online accounts impenetrable by creating a password cycling program on the ghost laptop. It would change all of his passwords to something long and random every minute of the day. To get into his accounts, Peter would have to use the laptop to see the current password and input it in the time before it changes again. Seeing as the laptop would pretty much allow anyone access to his accounts and has solid proof that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, Peter planned to put a similar protection spell on the laptop that he did on his friends and family. Peter even planned to add a similar spell to Thor's hammer, as he's learned how to make things heavier and lighter weeks ago. This would completely stop theft, as no one but himself would be able to lift or open the laptop. He also planned to save room in the laptop by cooling and powering it with enchantments. Both enchantments would be extremely simple. He's already learned both freezing and lightning spells, which would only need to be powered down by a large margin so they don't cause damage. Magic plus technology. Speaking of, Peter wanted to use magic to make Asgard's type of technology, but that would take a lot of time. Asgard is an extremely advanced interstellar magical society after all. -2 weeks later. While working on everything and spending time with his family, friends, and girlfriend, Peter has finally finished working on Candy Crush. Though that doesn't mean it's a completed game yet. Peter is now in the testing phase, which means he has to play the game on a bunch of different phones to make sure it works. He can play the game on his PC all he wants, but that wouldn't test the game in the way it's going to be played, which is on mobile phones. PCs can run mobile games easily without even breaking a sweat after all. In order to announce his game to everyone and quicken the testing phase, Peter and Ned invited everyone over to showcase it and use them as game testers. As everyone showed up, Peter finished downloading the game onto a bunch of outdated smartphones. When making a game, it's best to stress test it on a lower quality piece of hardware. That way you know for sure that there won't be any problems for those with outdated and newer model phones. When everyone arrived, Peter saw Ned, May, MJ, and Grace sitting in the living room. Peter walked over with a box full of smartphones and handed them out one by one. Standing in front of everyone, Peter unlocks one of the phones and taps the Candy Crush icon on the home screen. Music plays as Peter displays the phone to the crowd. A black screen appears and the words, "Parker Games" fade in with a short but sweet animation. The image changes and a much more impressive animation plays, highlighting the different aspects of the game with cute candy characters. Below the video, a loading bar fills slowly but surely. "Thank you all for coming," Peter says, as Ned stands beside him, looking excited and accomplished. "No problem, Peter," Grace says as she and everyone else look at Peter expectantly. "Yeah, no problem. Now what's this all about? Did you call us here to play some SH times TTY mobile game?" MJ says it how it is, not putting two and two together after seeing the Parker Games logo. "No, not just any SH times TTY mobile game. My SH times TTY mobile game," Peter says with a smile as the game fully loads, showing the main menu. "I helped too," Ned says, excitedly raising his hand. "Oh yeah, Ned helped and gave me ideas along the way," Peter clarifies as he pats his best friend on the shoulder. Hearing this, everyone opens their outdated phones and sees the only app on the home screen. "Candy Crush?" MJ says skeptically as she and everyone else opens the app. "Why did you make this garbage? My mom would probably play this." "Hey," Grace elbows her daughter. "What? It's the truth," MJ says, with a shrug as she turns to Peter, waiting for his answer. "Money," Peter replies without a single ounce of shame. He didn't disagree with her, as he felt the same way. Though the money is always in the mainstream community. The normies, so to speak. "You didn't," MJ says in disbelief as she taps the shop icon on the home screen. "You're evil." Peter didn't reply and just smiled like a hungry shark stalking its prey. Chapter 19. Business Plans. "You're evil," MJ states as she sees the many microtransactions built into the game. May and Grace were confused as they didn't know what MJ was talking about. "We've joined the dark side," Ned says in a slightly deeper voice than usual. "Can someone explain what's going on?" May asks as Grace nods alongside her. "Ned and I made a pay-to-win mobile game. It's pretty much a game that you can play for free but requires payments if you want to speed up your progress or unlock certain perks that the free players don't get access to. If you open the shop by tapping the bank icon, you'll see the in-game currency that can be purchased. From 10 gold for $0, 99 to 1,000 gold for $74, 99. I've started you all out with 1,000 gold for free," Peter explains as MJ starts playing the tutorial. As Peter walks everyone through how the game works, they all begin playing. What truly surprised him was MJ's focus on the game. She seemed to like this mainstream garbage more than she originally let on. MJ, May, and Grace immediately became glued to their screens as the room went quiet. All that could be heard was the sound effects and music of the game from multiple perspectives. Thanks. What do you guys think of the game overall? Any complaints or ideas to throw in? Peter asks. Everyone had only praise to say for the game, but MJ, who was stood silent as everyone looked at her for her input. Okay, I'm sorry for calling it a Shaish Times TTY mobile game. It's actually kind of fun, MJ admits, as she takes out her phone. Can you download it onto my phone as well? I want to play it during lunch at school. Peter doesn't respond and just smiles at her, which makes MJ feel embarrassed. Stop looking at me like that, MJ says as her mother laughs. It's okay, MJ. I'm happy that you like it. It took a good amount of work. Peter smiled as he sat beside MJ and put his arm around her. MJ looked awkwardly at her mother, who simply smiled at Peter's show of affection. Not in front of my mom, MJ hissed as she pushed Peter away. Oh, don't mind me. Thanks. What do you guys think of the game overall? Any complaints or ideas to throw in? Peter asks. Everyone had only praise to say for the game, but MJ, who was stood silent as everyone looked at her for her input. Okay, I'm sorry for calling it a Shaish Times TTY mobile game. It's actually kind of fun, MJ admits as she takes out her phone. Can you download it onto my phone as well? I want to play it during lunch at school. Peter doesn't respond and just smiles at her, which makes MJ feel embarrassed. Stop looking at me like that, MJ says as her mother laughs. Peft, it's okay, MJ. I'm happy that you like it. It took a good amount of work. Peter smiled as he sat beside MJ and put his arm around her. MJ looked awkwardly at her mother, who simply smiled at Peter's show of affection. Not in front of my mom, MJ hissed as she pushed Peter away. Oh, don't mind me, Grace says as she and May enjoy the show. Sure. Peter pecks MJ on the cheek and scoots away before she could react. I could give you the game now, but it would probably be better to wait until it's finished. I just need you guys to keep the phones I gave you and play when you have spare time. If you run into any glitches or bugs, text me the details and I'll fix it before submitting it to the different mobile app stores. After taking their new outdated phones, Ned, MJ, and Grace took their leave. As she was leaving and no one was looking, MJ gave Peter a quick goodbye kiss. MJ's not very comfortable with public shows of affection, which is understandable, especially in front of her mother. Though that doesn't mean she isn't an affectionate person. In fact, when they're alone, MJ becomes a lot bolder. When it was finally just May and Peter left, May turned to Peter with a worried look on her face. Are you sure this is okay, Peter? You said you made the game for money, not to mention that construction job you took before school started. I know we aren't the most well-off family, but we get by just fine. I just don't want you to worry about money and focus on school and enjoying your life. She voices her doubts and worries. Taking a seat next to his Aunt May on the sofa, Peter sighs as he thought this may happen. May, this isn't about us not having enough money or anything like that. I thought game development was interesting, so I started studying up on it and thought making a game would be fun. The reason I started with a mobile game is that it's an easy starting point. As for the pay-to-win aspect, I just thought it would be an easy way to make money. Maybe pay for college and start a savings account for the future. Peter tries to placate May's worries. I see. May sighs in relief. Besides, school is easy. I don't even study anymore and I'm at the top of my class. Working on this game hasn't impacted my grades or enjoyment at all, and once it's released I won't have to do much anymore. I'll only have to add some updates on rare occasions. Also, if the game takes off, you could work fewer shifts at the hospital. I know you'd never quit, but shorter shifts would be nice, right? Peter says, knowing she likes her career too much to give it up. That would be nice. May was certainly tempted. Good, just know that I'm fine. I plan to enjoy every second of my life, Peter says as he hugs May tightly. All right, you've convinced me. Do I need to do anything to help since you're a minor? May asks as they separate. Well, we need to do a few things. Peter sighs, knowing the paperwork is going to be annoying. We need to register a business under the Parker Games name and copyright Candy Crush. Then file Parker Games as an LLC and open a business account for the money we make. What's an LLC? May asks. It basically makes Parker Games a company that's a separate legal entity from its owners. An LLC or limited liability company has looser filing requirements, regulations, and fewer taxes to worry about. If we didn't file under an LLC, the taxes from all of the money we make would be counted as personal revenue and taxed at a much larger percentage, Peter explains. Although Peter originally didn't want to start a company, as it would be too time-consuming, the LLC will only make Parker Games a company in name. He has no plans to make this complicated. Parker Games would merely make digital games, which would be released in online stores. No random employees, towers with his name on them, or factories pumping out goods. Peter's too busy for all of that and wants to enjoy his new life. Wow, you really did your research, May mutters, impressed by Peter's commitment to this. Yeah, I spent some time looking into it. Though, there is a downside to this. We would have to mark ourselves as employees of the company and get paid that way. The money Parker Games makes would belong to the company, which will be paid out to us as employees in a monthly or weekly paycheck. I can't just pay myself some crazy number either, as that would not make the IRS very happy. Peter explains the few downsides. Though that doesn't mean Peter can't use company funds for anything business related, a company car, jet, properties, and supplies for future projects. Pretty much anything worded as a company expense can be paid for by Parker Games, which Peter would be the majority owner of. Peter planned to give Ned and May a small piece of the company. Ned, because he helped with the first game, and May, for always being there and taking care of him. Who knows where Peter Parker would be without his Aunt May? Spider-Man may not exist in that parallel universe, though everyone that tested the game would be put on payroll. MJ and her mother Grace would be receiving paychecks as Parker Games' official game testers, so they won't be left out. Peter just has to wait until Candy Crush launches and starts picking up traction. Once the money rolls in, Peter would share the profits with the few friends and family he has. You impress me every day, you know that, May says genuinely. I do my best to impress. -1 week later, after a week of game testing and bug fixes, Peter has officially finished the development of Candy Crush. May hired a business lawyer, who was a friend of hers from college, to help with all of the paperwork. The lawyer gave them a good discount for her services too. She got all the paperwork together for them and walked Peter and May through filling it all out. Once they were finished, the lawyer filed all of the papers for them. Parker Games was on its way to being a real company, while Candy Crush would be copyrighted soon enough. Chapter 20. Terrorist Attack Eye. While waiting to hear back about the paperwork for Parker Games and Candy Crush, Peter turned his focus onto the Ghost laptop. Filing for an LLC is supposed to take 3 to 5 business days, while the copyright of Candy Crush will take around 3 months. Though that doesn't mean Peter can't start selling the game. The second Peter paid the fee and sent in the paperwork plus a copy of Candy Crush, the U.S. Copyright Office sent him an email with a registration date. That date is the time they received everything, which means he can start selling the game on that date. That means that Peter can start selling Candy Crush right now. Though he plans to wait until his business is made, the LLC goes through, and he opens a business bank account. He also needs to link that business account with the Candy Crush shop, but that would have to wait for another day. Now that Peter doesn't have to work on the game for a while, his extra time can be put to good use. The Ghost laptop is his biggest project yet, and Peter just hoped it worked. After a few days of undivided attention, the laptop was fully put together. Booting it up, the lightning enchantment powered it, as Peter slipped in an installation disk for the Windows 7 operating system. Though it's not just Windows 7 anymore. After some upgrading and tweaking the operating system so it would work in harmony with the Ghost laptop, Peter wouldn't even call it Windows 7 anymore. As the laptop screen lit up, instead of the Windows 7 red, blue, green, and yellow flag, a black boot-up screen with a ghostly white figure in the center appeared. Below the Ghost is a button that says Install. Clicking it, Peter waits as Windows Ghost installs itself onto the laptop. That's a pretty good name, Peter thought as he watched the loading bar slowly fill. Soon enough, the loading bar filled and the laptop restarted. Once again, the ghost icon showed as it booted up and the laptop's desktop screen appeared. Sighing in relief, Peter knew that the hardest part was past him. The laptop was turned on and his operating system is working. Before connecting to the internet to run further tests, Peter switched to his spider suit and portaled across the city to the top of a skyscraper. He didn't know for sure if everything would work as he planned, and if it didn't, who knows how many alarms he'll set off with this thing. Just the feature that merges all Wi-Fi and cell signals could fail and alert every cellular and Wi-Fi provider in the area. It's best that Peter keeps the testing of this baby far away from his life as Peter Parker. It's just too dangerous not to. Sitting at the top of the New York City skyline, Peter clicks an Ethernet cable-looking icon on the bottom right of the screen and toggles it on. As soon as he did, a small window with a list of cellular and Wi-Fi signal names appeared. A smaller window pops up in front of this window, asking Peter if he wants to merge all connections. Clicking yes, the mini window closes and a loading circle spins before the bigger window closes as well. Looking back to the Ethernet icon in the bottom right, Peter saw that it was now glowing green, signifying that he was connected to the internet. Beside the green Ethernet icon is the number 18, which is the amount of different cellular and Wi-Fi signals that are currently being merged and used by the laptop. Opening his internet browser, Peter types in speed test and net and tests his internet connection. 1,239 download and 426 upload speed, which is amazing for a wireless connection at the top of a skyscraper in 2010. After testing the normal things on the laptop, like its memory, hard drives, touchpad, keyboard, power consumption, cooling, etc., Peter moved on to more in-depth tests. Speaking of the power consumption and cooling, the enchantments used for both seem to be holding without issue. The lightning spell keeps it powered as if it was plugged in at all times, while the freezing spell cools the laptop without any airflow vents required. Moving on to the more advanced tests, Peter downloaded a program that would stress test the CPU and GPU. Both could easily handle the highest level of the program, and thanks to his enchantments, the laptop didn't overheat at all throughout the tests, nor did it have power issues. After the hardware, software, and internet connection was tested, Peter moved on to what the laptop was really made for. Being untraceable, Peter tested everything from his IP address to his cookies. Everything seems to be working as it should, as he has no IP address and seems to leave no data behind while using the internet. No IP address. HTTP refers. Cookies, tracking pixels, super cookies, user agents, browser fingerprinting, routing information, email metadata, etc. Just as Peter hoped, the laptop seemed to be working as designed. Suddenly, while Peter was being as thorough as possible, a loud explosion was heard as the ground shook briefly like a small earthquake was happening. "What the?" Peter muttered as he looks over the laptop and sees smoke rising from the bottom of a nearby skyscraper. Thinking quickly, Peter powers down the ghost laptop and opens a portal, sending it back to his bedroom. As the portal closes, Peter jumps off the building and swings toward the smoking skyscraper. Arriving before the police, Peter sees a portion of the building was blown apart and was currently on fire. Smoke rises from the large hole that the explosion created as a stream of people evacuates the building below. Not having time to figure out what exactly happened, Peter swings into the burning skyscraper through the large smoking hole. Arriving inside, Peter carefully made his way through the collapsing part of the building, looking for any survivors along the way. Sadly, everyone that was in the blast radius was either turned to paste or mangled to bits. This is actually the first time Peter has seen a human body or any body in such a horrific state. It was sad and disgusting, to say the least. While clearing the way for people to evacuate and saving those that survived the blast, Peter heard something odd coming from the higher floors. "I can't do it." He heard someone cry out and beg, "Please don't make me. I don't want to hurt anyone." After the man spoke, Peter could hear a much lower voice that sounded like it was coming from a phone or some sort of small speaker. "Think of your family." A woman speaks softly. I wouldn't want to kill such a kind woman like your wife, but let's not forget your children either. How old are they again? Ah, I remember. It was 7 and 9, wasn't it? As the portal closes, Peter jumps off the building and swings toward the smoking skyscraper. Arriving before the police, Peter sees a portion of the building was blown apart and was currently on fire. Smoke rises from the large hole that the explosion created as a stream of people evacuates the building below. Not having time to figure out what exactly happened, Peter swings into the burning skyscraper through the large smoking hole. Arriving inside, Peter carefully made his way through the collapsing part of the building, looking for any survivors along the way. Sadly, everyone that was in the blast radius was either turned to paste or mangled to bits. This is actually the first time Peter has seen a human body or any body in such a horrific state. It was sad and disgusting, to say the least. While clearing the way for people to evacuate and saving those that survived the blast, Peter heard something odd coming from the higher floors. Such beautiful girls you have. It would be such a shame if they never make it to the double digits. You know what? Let's put them on the phone. As Peter hears this, he's already rushing to the location. Whatever is happening doesn't sound good at all. The phone shuffles as two distinctly younger voices speak this time. Daddy, where are you? I'm bored, one says. Yeah, this lady is weird and mommy doesn't look happy. I want to go home, another says uncomfortably. It's okay. Just do as the weird lady says until I'm back, all right? Daddy will be home soon. The man lies through his teeth. Not liking where this is going, Peter gives up on using the crowded stairwells and breaks a nearby window. Leaping outside, he runs up the side of the building at full speed. I can't do it. He heard someone cry out and beg. Please don't make me. I don't want to hurt anyone. After the man spoke, Peter could hear a much lower voice that sounded like it was coming from a phone or some sort of small speaker. Think of your family. A woman speaks softly. I wouldn't want to kill such a kind woman like your wife, but let's not forget your children either. How old are they again? Ah, I remember. It was 7 and 9, wasn't it? A nearby news helicopter picks up this action and follows Spider-Man's figure with its onboard camera, broadcasting the footage live on multiple news stations. Still honed in on the man on the phone, Peter hears the voice on the phone change back to the woman from earlier. You know what to do, don't you? She says smoothly. Yeah, the man says defeatedly. Just promise me you won't hurt them. Of course, I'm a woman of my word. She says believably, though Peter wouldn't trust someone like that. All right, I'll do it. The man says, almost as if he is psyching himself up. Do it. The woman goads him on over the phone. The man's breathing becomes erratic as Peter makes it to his floor. Looking in the window, Peter sees the man he's been looking for. He's a slightly balding middle-aged man, but that wasn't the first thing Peter noticed. No, what caught his eye was the suicide vest strapped to his chest with enough bricks of C4 to blow twice the hole compared to the one downstairs. Seeing the man squeezing a button in his right hand, Peter's spider senses instantly start blaring, screaming at him that something bad was about to happen. Behind the bomb-strapped man was a line of people who were crowding into the stairwell from the upper floors. Unwilling to leave these people to die, Peter kicks off the window, shattering it into tiny pieces. Shooting 2 webs at the man, who was about to activate the bomb vest, Peter pulls him out of the building and catapults the guy as high into the air as possible. The nearby news helicopter picked up on this and recorded every second. Everyone watching wondered why Spider-Man would do such a thing. Maybe J. Jonah Jameson was right? Many people thought, asterisk, boom, asterisk. Before they could question Peter's actions, the man he threw high into the air, away from any innocent bystanders, lights up in a big fiery explosion. The impact of said explosion shatters the glass of nearby buildings, causing a rain of glass to fall onto the streets and people below. The nearby news and police helicopters wobble for a moment before regaining stability. Since Peter was too close to the explosion, he was impacted the most out of anyone. As the shockwave of the explosion hit him, Peter was sent hurtling downward toward the busy streets of NY. Not good! Peter yells as he spins in his descent and crashed onto the roof of a parked yellow cab.